Um, there were two things. Then one of I did back in 2009. I did a program of activity which was about helping policymakers make more relevant policy for education. And so what we did was have an event, a co-created event, where we brought together technology providers and educators and there was we co-created who was going to be on stage and what we should be talking about, and we kind of created this kind of amplified event which had physical people in the physical event, but then had thousands of people watching and getting involved from outside. But the interesting thing about it was we had children in schools across the country who set up their own kind of think tanks inside, and we built a platform whereby these kids could listen to what was being said on stage, and tweet in. Actually, they were tweeting in questions, and one of the other schools would have to retweet it before we saw it on this massive map, so we could see what the questions were. So the questions were coming in from the kids. They drove the conversation. And it was absolutely fascinating. You'd have policymakers, technology leaders, and education leaders on stage realizing that they had no fucking clue what the kids actually thought or knew or understood. And the kids were just extraordinary. And that live interface and the amplified experience was just an incredibly kind of powerful thing. And so when I was at the UN, we did a bigger thing where we had 10,000 children in schools across the world who were, we called it a meta conference. So we had a 6,500 person conference in Geneva with the usual, kind of the telco leaders and the political leaders having their very kind of male conversations. But we also had 10,000 children that were connected to, obviously, into their schools that were actually asking all of the questions. And that unmediated, decentralized approach was actually incredibly powerful, because then you'd end up with situations with 4 different countries on a stage, 2 policy people, 2 industry people, and they'd be talking at this kind of ridiculously high level, and actually it was really hard for people to really understand each other. And then the kids would dive in and ask a question on Twitter, and of course suddenly they're having to kind of answer the question and realizing they're not understanding each other. So I'm just thinking about the model you've just pitched is a very centralized model. It's about us collecting stories from kids and stories from CEOs. And I wonder then how you could scale that so it was less about us centralized mediation and more about us giving a platform to people to go, come on, you guys need to talk to each other and actually understand each other and feel connected.